Hey everybody, Dutchsinse here. 1:39 p.m. Central Time on Saturday, December 7th, 2013. And you can see it, a 4.5 magnitude earthquake struck here in central Oklahoma. And we're looking at Earthquake 3D here, which is a USGS feed of the most recent earthquakes. Let's go get the statistics on this from the USGS. Okay, 5.7 miles deep. That's almost double the normal fracking earthquake depth that we normally see. We normally see 3.0 miles deep, 3.1, so it's almost 6 miles deep. That's pretty interesting. Now let's go ahead and look up the coordinates, and the way you do that is just pull them from the USGS, put them in Google Earth, and hit search. And this is going to show us the earthquake epicenter. And it'll show us everything directly around the earthquake epicenter. Now you can see all these place marks that I've made before, marking frac wells and oil wells in the region and previous earthquakes. So when we zoom in here, let's just take it in. There we go. Here's our 4.5 magnitude earthquake, surrounded by previous earthquakes of 2.8, 3.9, 3.2, and a 2.9, all right here. And look what we have right here. The frac well, right in the middle of all these different earthquakes, 3.2, 2.5, 2.9. Okay, and they're not happening in the lake. They're happening to the east with the frac well literally almost at the center. So let's zoom in on there, and you guys can see what we're talking about here. All right, here's our oil pump, and they're most likely injecting water. There's no lake there, so they're most likely injecting wastewater down into the ground, and that's causing fracturing deep down, seeping down much further than they would normally expect and causing earthquake activity along the edge of the North American craton. Now, I've been talking about this for, guys, I mean, you know how long I've been talking about fracking. You can come over to my website and see all the previous earthquakes that built up to this 4.5. Here's my post from 4 days ago. Texas, 3.4. And I'm talking about how it's building up to a larger earthquake that could be happening in the region at the Oklahoma fracking operation, which was experiencing a swarm, which I made note of multiple times. This goes back, I've got hundreds of posts on the earthquakes that have been happening here in Oklahoma, Texas, Arkansas, and west into Colorado, South Colorado at the New Mexico border. All fracking operations, undeniable. And in case anybody wants to debate whether or not this is actually fracking, let me just go ahead and show you an article that the USGS put out. This is on my website. Look at that. USGS acknowledges the Oklahoma fracking earthquake swarm. Colorado, Texas, moving again. This is literally an article from the USGS where they state that the earthquakes that are happening in Oklahoma are most likely due to fracking. And they talk about the increase to 40 earthquakes per year from 2009 to 2013. And previously 1 to 3 in the same time frame from 1975 to 2008. When did they start doing the massive fracking operations, the new fracking operations? Right after this, guys. It went from 1 to 3 to 40. That's the USGS. Now let's go ahead and look at the last week of earthquakes. Okay, this is USGS last 7 days. And we're looking at everything 0.0 and greater. Now this is going to show us 2.5 and greater because of the map we're looking at. But you can see it. Look at it. Let me turn the rings down so you can really see where it's happening. Swarm, central Oklahoma. Small swarm, North Texas. No movement here in Colorado recently. No movement in Arkansas recently, which means the pressure is building. The 4.5 is a sign that the pressure along the edge of the craton. And I've got this diagram in this USGS article so you guys can see what I'm talking about here. Okay, here's the craton. Now this is a rough diagram, you see it in geology books. And here is the North American shale plays where they're doing the fracking operations. And here's just one shot from, I think, from almost a year ago now, of the earthquakes that have been occurring along the edge of the craton. And again, the craton is just the unsubducted portion of the plate itself. You've got the deformed edge, which extends out west all the way to Nevada, south through Texas and Louisiana, and east through the east coast. But the edge, the defined edge, is the area where we're experiencing earthquake movement. and specifically now along the southern edge at the man-made fracking operations. Most people don't pay attention to this, guys, unless it's a large earthquake. Who cares about the 2 and 3.0s, right? Well, you should care, because that's the buildup that occurs and has been occurring before the larger movement. And you don't have to take my word for it. Today's 4.5 proves that the 2.5s and 3.0s built up just like we were expecting into a 4.5. Why? Let me back it out and show you guys. Look at the movement along the Pacific Plate. The entire Pacific Plate is in an extreme state of unrest. 4 and 5.0 earthquakes all the way around, hundreds of them. Spilling over into Europe, spilling up north across Alaska, and coming down to the edge of North America, which led me to make this post. Let me go ahead and take you back. Here we go. On December 2nd, double fracking earthquakes in Oklahoma and a 5.5 off the west coast in the new Lavic fields. Go read what I said, guys. I was calling for this. A larger earthquake here in Oklahoma due to the movement to the west, because the subduction is not able to keep up with the amount of activity and movement occurring around the entire plate. Subduction is only accounting for a small portion of the pressure transfer. The rest is being literally transferred across the edge of the plate, which is showing an earthquake activity right along the south middle portion of the plate at a weak point, a perforated point, where the humans are perforating the edge of the North American plate, and that causes a weak spot, a spot to allow for pressure release for movement along the edge of the craton. And it's resulting in multiple fracking earthquakes, much deeper than where they're actually doing the drilling. And that the water and injection and pressure that's being put in there is literally transferring down into the plate itself and causing earthquakes. It's a huge thing to be happening, guys. This is, I would say it was most likely unexpected, that they are not expecting this activity to be occurring, this amount of earthquake activity to be occurring at the man-made operations. Now, why has it not happened in Arkansas? Why has it not happened in Colorado recently? Because this is the weak spot. Just like if you're trying to bend in a piece of cardboard, if you have a perforation along that edge, the spot where it's most perforated is going to bend first. It's just that simple. Much love, guys. Always remember to go look up the earthquakes. Always remember to definitely try and check them if they're in the Midwest. It's a little bit harder on the West Coast, but if you see earthquakes happening in Arkansas, Oklahoma, Colorado, you can bet that most likely they're man-made, or at least seismically induced. Much love, folks. Be safe.